Want to talk about a new movie? Check. Want to talk about an older movie similar or related to that new movie?
Check.
That's what you can expect from Quality Check Podcast.
It's a new podcast on the Studio DNA network, hosted by yours truly, Drew Douglas and
Daniel Posey. Every other Tuesday, we'll talk about a new movie and an old movie to see how the film's quality holds up.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of Disney Plus Reviews. I'm one of your co-hosts, Phil Souza, and I'm here with my good friend, co-host, and the guy who's the boss, the king, the Shah. It's Jack Aldermatt. What's going on, Jack?
I ain't never had a friend like me.
Yeah.
Girl. I'm great. I am feeling good about our chances to talk about Aladdin today. I think that between Jafar and Iago, I think that we can make it out of the cave of eternal, whatever it is, sunshine, alive, with a carpet as a new best friend.
Yeah.
And 3 wishes that will change your life forever.
Well, if you saw the title of this episode, you already know what we're talking about today. But we are talking about Aladdin 2019, the remake. It just now launched on Disney Plus. I guess it probably came out about 7 months ago, last year.
It is actually called Aladdin. ... Getting jiggy with it.
I believe that.
Because Will Smith's in it, man.
Yeah, blue Will Smith.
He is blue.
Now, okay.
He is blue. Is he related to the Blue Man Group? Is my question.
Probably. He looks like
Is there
he
a
could
correlation?
be. Yeah. He's all blue. He's all up in that blue.
All up.
If you're just joining us for this podcast, we're an unofficial Disney Plus podcast reviewing the most popular stuff on Disney Plus. We did just finish The Mandalorian season 1 and reviewed every episode of that. You can go back and listen to those episodes. And last week we talked about, what did we talk about last week?
Pixar, baby.
Oh yeah, Pixar movies.
Top 21 Pixar films.
Yeah, we kind of gave our ratings, loose ratings on kind of which ones we like the best. And I talked about Finding Dory and Finding Nemo, the first of which I had never seen before. So yeah, that was a good episode. Go back and listen to, especially if you love Pixar. I think you'll like that episode. Today, we're diving deep into Aladdin. I want to talk a little bit about the original movie, like what our history is with the 1994, I want to say.
I feel like you're right.
92, 94, somewhere in there. Original movie and then also the remake as well. And we might get into a little bit of discussion about just the thing that is Disney remakes these days. They seem to put out 2 or 3 every year these days, so we can talk about that a little bit. And we always like to finish up with what else are we watching on Disney Plus. I've got a couple things I want to mention there.
92 was the
92,
original.
Okay. I knew it was early 90s. I couldn't remember
you were
the exact
close.
year. Well, I said 92 or 94.
Yes,
so
you were close. You were close.
One of them was correct. I'm correct 50% of the time, usually.
On guesses.
Yeah.
When I guess, it's about a 50% shot that I guessed right.
Yeah. What is your experience, your history with the original film? I'm assuming you watched it when it first came out.
I did. I hate to say this.
Jack and I are both 40, just for public record.
But I hate to say this, but I am not as big of a fan of Disney's animated things. I really like Pixar, but the animated movies in general, Lion King, Aladdin, and I've watched them all, so I'm not saying I don't watch them. Any of the old stuff, Fox and Hound, I've seen all these things.
Yeah.
But I am not, it's not like the tippy top of things. I know how some people are like so locked into Disney that they're like, they can't go wrong. Everything Disney does is the best. I'm just like, nah.
I could see that for stuff that came out before you were born or before you were old enough to actually watch and enjoy it. But even the stuff that happened when you were in your teens, like we weren't into that.
No. I mean, it wasn't like I was super into it. I definitely didn't watch it in the theater. So if I saw this, it was on a video replay on TV. Someone had a DVD or a VHS of it or something like that, and we were just like sitting around watching nothing. But
I think I might have seen a few episodes of Mork and Mindy maybe before this movie, but I'm pretty sure that this was my first introduction to Robin Williams. I don't know that I had seen. We were 13 when this movie came out.
I'd watched his stand-up specials.
You were 13. I was almost 13.
Yes.
And you had seen
I
some
love
of his
stand-up. It's awesome.
You had seen his stand-up before seeing the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My parents didn't really put a lot of pause on what I watched.
Okay. And I was the opposite. Like my parents were not super strict, but like definitely had a lot of rules.
I mean, there are things that I'm sure that that they saw me starting to watch, or that came on TV. They're like, "Oh, you can't watch this," but I don't remember that. And I definitely know that Robin Williams, even if he cussed some, which he did in some of his stand-up,
yeah,
they weren't going to blanket that. It's just some guy being funny. So I mean, I watched Eddie Murphy Raw, like those two,
really?
like
Yeah,
I watched
didn't see any of that
stand-up stuff that was like super cuss word.
So here's what's so interesting about that original cast, and I guess you could probably say this of a lot of earlier Disney movies, but I couldn't tell you who any of the other cast members are in that original movie. Like Robin Williams was so big at the time, and obviously huge as the genie character.
Well, there's yeah.
I mean, I've even heard some people say like that movie's only good because of the genie, like his role in the genie.
I think that the person. Let me find him on this list of people.
Scott Weinger.
Yes. Okay. Now
was
Scott.
Aladdin.
Now Scott. He is famous for that right there. He is famous as Candace Cameron's character's
the boyfriend. Okay.
On Full House.
Okay.
So whenever he got that role as Aladdin, I do remember this, and I do remember
he had been the boyfriend even before Aladdin.
Yeah, and he was like that. Good looking. Here he is. He's a good looking guy, and he was born in an incubator somewhere underneath the ABC studios, and we're gonna have him on Full House. And guess what? He's just ready to do some voiceover work, and here he comes.
Gilbert Gottfried. I forgot. He was kind of the other big name. He was
Iago.
He was pretty big, honestly, even before this movie came out.
Iago.
Yeah, Iago.
And then who else here? We've got Jonathan. Click on Jonathan Freeman there. Oh, there.
Jim Cummings was Razul.
Yeah, which we've seen him. We've seen Jim Cummings in the flesh at Comic-Cons before, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Click on hover over Jonathan Freeman there. Click on him. Let's see what he's got going on here, pal. Okay.
What was his character?
Yeah, or no, some of the other things he's been in.
Oh, he was Jafar.
He was Jafar. He was in Aladdin. He was also in that big time direct-to-video Return of Jafar.
Which, the Return of the Jafar, I had no interest in seeing in 1994 because Robin Williams was not in that movie.
Right. Scroll up. Let's see what television he was on. That may be where he's gotten some of his
I'm
stuff.
not familiar with him.
I know
he's probably been in some stuff that I've seen, but I just didn't know it was him.
One of those guys that's been in a lot of random stuff. I think he did the voice in the Aladdin video game. I just keep scrolling. Yeah, right there. No, this is just some. Oh, he does the voice of Jafar in Kingdom Hearts. All the Kingdom Hearts. That's cool.
He is Jafar, basically. He hasn't been in a lot of other stuff that people have seen. Linda Larkin
Welker
was Jasmine, and I don't know anything about her. But that's not uncommon. Like the girl that sang, or at least did the speaking voice. I think she did the speaking part and the singing for Little Mermaid. Is someone you've never heard of either. Like I think a lot of times they were just grabbing whoever was on Broadway, or maybe had done like some singing stuff for some show or something like that. They just got them. Hey, let's audition, and if you're good enough to be the part, you're good. But now that's different. Like I feel like some of these actors that are in some of these movies are like almost bigger before they got into the movie.
Don't go anywhere. But let me ask you this question,
dude. By the way, are you gonna ask about money?
Well, the budget for this one's $26 million for the original Aladdin, the '92 Aladdin.
$28 million, yeah.
$28 million. The box office was $504 million.
$500 million.
Now, the new one.
That's crazy.
The new one is even higher than that. So does that mean?
Well, that's not adjusted for inflation, I'm sure.
But riddle me this one. Does that make? I'm just going off the numbers. $183 million budget, $1.05 billion. It made over $1 billion.
The new one made $1 billion.
Okay, so does that make? And I think there's a good argument for this. Does that make the new Aladdin the quintessential Aladdin?
No.
Why?
I mean, the original's the original. Like, what? I think that will always be the one.
It's a cartoon.
I know it, but
This was real life.
I guarantee you that more people will always see the original animated film than any of the live action ones.
I would like to
I
hear
think the
people's
live action
reaction.
movies are always going to do really well in the box office. I doubt a lot of kids especially are probably gravitating more towards the animated stuff.
You think so?
Yeah, I know Jordan will be that way. I can't speak for other kids, but that's what I wonder.
You ain't never had a friend like me. That's what I
So,
say.
when I'm kind of the opposite of you, when Aladdin came out, it actually became my favorite Disney movie for about the next 6 or 7 years. Throughout high school and stuff like that, people are like, "Hey, what's your favorite Disney movie?" Aladdin was my go-to answer. I loved that movie. I loved Robin Williams. I loved the music in it. I loved the setting of it, the acting, the silliness with Abu and Iago. I loved all the characters. I loved that movie. So I watched it a lot, just dozens and dozens of times, even before high school. That movie held my number one spot until The Emperor's New Groove came out. And Emperor's New Groove became that new spot for many years after that. And then it's changed hands a couple of
Emperor's
times.
New Groove, huh?
I would say the original Aladdin is probably still definitely my top 10 of all time, any animated movie. And it might even be in my top 5. I really like the story a lot. Now, that said, and we'll get to the review of the new movie here in a second, the new movie changes enough and adds to the movie enough that I actually kind of like it better than the original movie as far as the plot and stuff like that. Now, I'm also going to rip into the movie a little bit and and express some of my feelings and opinions about things I didn't like that they did in the new movie. But I really loved how more fleshed out the story was. And I guess watching the new movie, I didn't realize how not complicated the original movie it was. And maybe they have to do that for kids' films and stuff like that. But I feel like they're getting away from that with brand new movies, that animated films that are being written right now have a lot more depth to the characters, some backstory, some nuances to the plot that maybe kids wouldn't necessarily understand. Take like Frozen and Frozen 2. Like the first Frozen movie is actually pretty simple as far as the story. Frozen 2 that just came out is an incredibly complex story. There's a lot of things going on, and motivations between characters and people groups. It's a very, very complicated movie. That is not true of the original Aladdin at all. And I felt like when they went into the new movie, they had to say, okay, let's make this movie for adults. Let's put some more, complicated nuance and stuff like that to the characters, and what are some of their motivations and backstories. Why would they be doing this thing, or what is their real goal?
And they flesh out side characters better, like in newer stuff. Like
And
they
they
just know
added-
the storytelling. They've really fleshed out side characters because they know that there's money in the detail, and there's further stories that could build out off that detail and spin off into something else, and it make it more believable.
Yeah. Now, okay, let's just go ahead and jump into the new movie. I think we'll kind of talk about some of our reviews of the original movie we'll talk about both of them at the same time, I guess. Here's where I want to start. Have you? So when was the last time that you watched the 2019 remake? Was it
When it was in the theater?
In theaters. Okay. So it's been about 7 or 8 months. I just watched it a few days ago, so it's gonna be a little bit fresher in my mind.
I remember it very well, though. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I thought it was much better. I thought the 2019 one for me as a payoff was a much better movie than the Lion King remake. And I understand the Lion King remake
Infinitely
is
better.
animated animals, but I felt like there was some soul in this movie. And I'm telling you, I'm crediting a huge amount to Will Smith. People rip on Will Smith for being Will Smith, but there's a reason he is a billionaire from making movies, because like he is really good at doing what he does. So,
Can you? I don't know that I can. Can you think of an actor that maybe would have been a better replacement for Robin? I mean, it would have been awesome to see Robin back, but I don't know that they would have even done that, because Robin's an older guy now. Like, I mean, had he not passed before the making of this movie, I almost feel like they probably wouldn't have cast him anyways, just because like he was the original genie, and so I don't know that they probably would have grabbed somebody, but I don't know who else better they could have grabbed besides Will Smith as far as charisma, persona. Like, that is what you want when you cast that character.
Yes.
And so I feel like Will Smith was a good
someone
choice.
that can hold down such a big role. Like I said, Will Smith was cast in that role, and it's a lot like when anyone is cast in anything Disney, they're going to be compared to the original.
Oh,
and what a big role! Like Robin Williams made that first movie. We already talked about that.
Huge
but like,
shoes
Robin
to
Williams made that first movie work because of how just unbelievable it was. Now Will Smith gets to try to do this partially in real life.
Yeah.
I mean, there was CGI that was involved, partially in real life, though.
Yeah, I want to talk about the CGI here a little bit later. I'll get to some of that because I didn't love some of it, but yeah, for a lot of the movie, it's just him. Like it's not him and no makeup, like just Will Smith, and that's where I think he shined the most. Like just being him. So I just really enjoyed it. Want to talk about just a few of the differences between the two movies, things that people would notice if they watch the original movie, love the original movie, and then are watching this movie and seeing what is different, what's improved upon, what's been added. There's a whole new character in this movie, which I did not see coming. I thought, having seen the Lion King remake first and then this one second, I honestly thought we would kind of get the Lion King again, but with Aladdin. Lion King, for those who haven't seen it, basically being shot for shot. It's almost an exact replication of the original movie.
And they attempted it.
Yeah, and it's just not good because of that. Like I think audiences are saying, okay, if I'm going to give you my $25 or whatever for two tickets to go see this in the theater, show me something new. Like I want to see the original story and the some of the original songs. Add a song, add characters, add a whole new scene, add some different motivations or backstory.
A whole new world, if
you will. And we didn't get that with the Lion King, but we did get that with Aladdin. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. One of my favorite characters in the new movie is the added character Dahlia in Aladdin 2019. It's the handmaiden for Jasmine.
Yes.
She was hilarious. I guess she's been on like 4 or 5 seasons of SNL, which I don't know her from that. I haven't watched recent
funny,
SNL. Yeah. She was hilarious in this. From scene 1, I knew she was going to be more of a comedic kind of character, very silly. Just the eye contact scenes between her and Jasmine where nothing's being said, but they're just kind of like rolling their eyes at each other. Really, really good stuff. I really enjoyed her character a lot. That was probably the biggest change was that there's an entire character that's being added. But I almost felt like they had to do that because you could tell from the beginning of this movie they wanted to double down on Jasmine. So I think a lot of the 1992 culture versus now culture is we don't want a princess that's basically just there to this damsel in distress that needs to be saved. Like
can't do anything herself.
Yeah, let's give her some story. Let's give her an actual person. Like she's a person and she has her own desires, her own opinions about everything that's going on. And in this movie, I think one of the smartest things they did was they made her actually, in the end, she becomes the ruler of Agrabah, and she has ideas about how to rule the kingdom. Like she actually is a strong female person that has problems with the way that the kingdom is run or the way that Jafar wants to run it, and says, no, if I was queen, this is what I would do. And I love that. I love having all those additions in this one.
The movie Brave, what's the princess in that movie? What's her name? She is a very strong character. Let's make her more like that than make her like Sleeping Beauty, who literally is asleep for half the movie.
Yeah, no, it was great. I can't find Merida. Yeah, she is more like Merida.
More, yeah, than other Disney princesses, if you will. If you will.
There's a new song. One of the biggest changes to this one is that it keeps all of the same soundtrack as the original movie. Although honestly, like they've all been redone. Like all the songs have been resung,
but they have good feel.
Also rescored, and it's a completely different band that's playing all these songs and stuff like that. The remixes of these songs are awesome, better than the originals.
Alan Menken composes the score.
He probably did the original
to this. Alan Menken does a lot with Disney. Has done a lot of things.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if he was the original.
He, my friend, Little Shop of Horrors, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Little Mermaid, Rocky V, Beauty and the Beast, Newsies, and then Kenny Ortega did all that, was the actual director. And then Home Alone 2 did a part of that for Christopher Columbus. 1992 Aladdin, and he did on that film. He was the composer and songwriter. And then Pocahontas, he's done a lot of work with Disney.
The first song, well, after Arabian Nights, the very, in the first 5 minutes you hear Arabian Nights. The first like song from like kind of like the main part of the soundtrack is One Jump. And as soon as that music kicked in and there's like a lot more percussion going on and stuff like that, I was like, yes, I like this. Like, this is cool. It was One Jump from the original movie, but brought into 2019, like with that kind of musical, frame of mind type of thing. So I really liked that a lot. So the music was better, but also they added a new song. So I've heard some kind of mixed feelings on Speechless. I'm assuming the song is called Speechless, but I like it a lot. I think it's a great song. I like the I'll have to pull up the cast. The actress that sings it, Jasmine, Naomi Scott. I think she does a really great job. I've heard some people say like, oh, her voice is okay. I think she has a powerful voice.
Yeah, it is. It's called Speechless, and it is by Naomi Scott. It's not to be confused with what's the
Dan and Shay.
Dan and Shay's Speechless.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
No, definitely not.
Arabian Nights, One Jump Ahead.
It's a good song. It's Speechless is basically in two parts. Like the first, you only hear the first half of the song in the first half of the movie, and then at the very end, kind of at the big climax at the end of the movie, you get to hear the second half of the song. And I thought that was an interesting take on a typical Disney song, that kids would sing.
They bring it back around. Good job, Alan Menken. Congratulations.
Yeah,
you did it again.
It's a really good song, and honestly, like. It has kind of a double meaning in the movie. Like in the first half, it's about basically her kind of staying quiet and not challenging the rules and just kind of being in the background, so to speak. And then in the second half of the movie, it's about her breaking from that, like breaking free from some of the expectations that are set upon her and saying like, I'm not going to hold my tongue anymore. Like I'm going to actually speak my mind and step into this, which I thought that was really cool. So it's a good moment. Like that song really kind of ushers in the big climax of the movie, how they're going to vindicate and beat Jafar at the end. So,
and they really had to come together because Jafar had him in a bad spot. He had everything lined up.
Yeah,
but luckily
he called his shot, and
luckily they found a way to rise up.
Yeah,
and beat him.
Probably one of my favorite things, as far as other than plot. We'll get into plot and acting and stuff like that, but this movie was next level other worlds for me when it came to the parkour stuff and the dancing. The dancing in this movie is some of the best I've seen in a film in years. Like you can point to La La Land and some other more recent movies that have done like some big like choreographed big set piece kind of dance numbers and stuff like that. This one is up there with any of that stuff. It was really, really amazing. And the guy that plays Aladdin, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Mena Massoud.
Masoud.
Yes. He is one of the most fantastic dancers of his age that I've seen.
He's a street rat, Phil.
Yeah. Now I read and heard that they had done some like creative things with camera work and speeding up like frames per second and stuff like that to make it look like he was dancing a little faster than he actually was. I don't really care. Like the guy is doing things that I didn't know that the human body could do.
Right.
And again, some of the parkour stuff where he's jumping from building to building, we have failed to mention that it's actually directed by Guy Ritchie, who's done some of my favorite movies of all time, Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and then of course he did the Sherlock Holmes movies. He's really becoming a bigger director recently, like in the last 5 or 6 years, I guess starting with Sherlock Holmes. And when I saw that he did this movie, I was like, oh, this is going to be pretty cool from an action standpoint. And it got me really excited to see One Jump. And it did not disappoint whatsoever. Watching him jump in between buildings. I don't know if you remember that. Like he would like start from the roof of a building and then like jump his way down to the street, like by like toggling legs against the
Prince
walls.
of Persia. You ever played Prince of Persia?
Yes, it reminded me a lot of that.
And the thing is like what's hilarious about that is like this movie did Prince of Persia better than Prince of Persia did.
Yes.
Prince of Persia as a movie.
That's true. I didn't think.
Who
about
played
that.
Prince of Persia? Was it Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
Yeah, which is like hilarious to me, but anyway.
Yeah, it was great. I really liked Jafar's character, and that's kind of the last really big change. I mean, there's other changes to mention, but one of the bigger changes in this one is that in the first one, I don't dislike Jafar's character. It's so funny how this movie is coloring my opinion of the 1992 movie now, having seen it. Again, it's one of those things where like I didn't realize that there were things I didn't like about the first movie until I saw this movie.
Yeah, I think it's a better movie than the first one.
In a lot of ways it is. And one of the biggest changes was I didn't realize how one note and how not fleshed out, not like explained why Jafar is such a villain in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true of a lot of movies of that time from the 80s and 90s. Like, we don't need a backstory for the bad guy. He's just a bad guy. Like, who cares why he's bad or what his motivations are? In this one, they're like, okay, that's not going to fly with the current audience or current culture that desires. They want to know about the villain. They want to know why he is the way that he is.
Yeah, it just can't be, he's a bad guy, so
yeah,
you gotta hate him.
This movie, like Jafar, in the first movie, he's like this really gruff, like really deep sounding, almost godlike, just villain. Like he's just evil from scene one. In this one, Jafar is like this kind of sweet talking, very
he's manipulative.
Yeah, and he's very like soft spoken, almost like it's very different from the original movie. But I believed his character a lot more, and that's going to be crucial in a live action kind of movie where it's like these are real people on screen. They want you to believe this is a real story, as opposed to just watching animated characters on screen where it doesn't look real. With this one, they're like, no, if we're going to make people believe this is really happening, we need to actually make his character make sense.
Right.
And so they gave him some like really strong political motivations, like it's stuff that would go totally over the heads of most kids. But he actually wants to like invade neighboring countries before they have the chance to attack them. He's all about the strength and power of Agrabah.
Well, and they paint him in a picture. They paint Jafar in a picture. He has worked his way to this position. Like he started out at the bottom.
That's right. Well, he was a thief when they first
and he worked his way to the top.
Yeah.
And so you kind of, I'm just saying this, folks. Listen, I'm not saying you should like Jafar, but you kind of more understand the way he is going about his business, because he started out at nothing and he has just slowly worked his way to the top, and ultimately he wants to be Sultan. But you kind of feel like, well, okay, I kind of get where he's coming from now. I don't agree with what he's doing, but
a lot of the power struggle in the original movie was just like he's just evil, and of course he wants power because that's what bad guys do. In this one, it's like, no, he's the villain because he has differences in this political struggle. So there's a political struggle going on between Jafar and the Sultan in this one because they have disagreements fundamentally about how to rule a kingdom. And so it's not so much like, hey, I'm evil, and so of course I want power.
He just thinks the Sultan's too nice.
What's that?
He thinks the Sultan's too nice.
Exactly. And he's like, hey, if you're going to protect this country, there's a better way to do it, and I know how to do it. And so he's like, when I'm Sultan, when I become the leader, things are going to change around here, and we're going to do this, this, and this. Now, of course, it's against the will of a lot of the people, and of course, Jasmine, who obviously has a say in how the kingdom is run, but Jafar's not going to give her that chance, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I really liked his character, just watching him on screen. So one of the bigger changes in this movie, if you loved Iago in the original movie and have not seen this one, you are not going to see a lot of Iago in this movie. They go full realism with this, like in the same way that he in the original movie, Iago speaks full sentences, full paragraphs. He just keeps talking. In this movie, he's almost not even in the film for the most part. And when he is in there, he basically only speaks the way you would expect a parrot to speak, just kind of in short phrases.
And you have Alan Tudyk voicing him.
So weird, man.
And
what a
you
weird choice.
could have made but they could have made him into a sarcastic character. Alan Tudyk's a very talented voiceover actor and very talented actor. They could have done anything they want with him. They chose to just make him a parrot.
It was really weird.
They got him at PetSmart, I heard, and he could only learn these words. So.
Yeah, they only could say what he could say.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, Alan Tudyk does a fine job. It's just like Gilbert Gottfried was given so much range in that movie. Like he could kind of just do whatever he wanted and maybe ad-lib some or whatever. But I love it in the original film when Gilbert Gottfried's just kind of doing that classic voice that I can't do. But he's like, if I have to stuff down one more of those crackers, he's talking about like he's going to stuff them down his throat. Whack, pow. And so I just love that character so much. And that was I guess a little bit of a disappointment with this movie. I wanted to see Iago, and some of the funniest scenes in the original movie have Iago in them, and they couldn't do that with this because of just doubling down. And same thing with Raja. Like Raja is in the original movie is not a speaking character. I mean, he makes little sounds and moans and stuff like that. In this one, he's just a cat in the background. And so, like, if you're looking to see some like animal characters kind of take the lead in some scenes, that's just not going to happen. Not going to happen in this one because that's just not the movie they wanted to make.
Exactly,
which is fine. CGI. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the animals were fine. I had read and heard from some people that they thought that the animals didn't look very realistic, and I don't know. I didn't see it that way, but I also wasn't looking for that.
Right.
Here's where we may or may not agree, and that's fine. I did not like the CGI on Will Smith. I thought his blue, when he was blue, like full blue, and fully CGI'd. I mean, like I'm sure mocapped, like they probably have the dots on his face and stuff like that. But they were, basically animating his movement and his facial structures and stuff like that. And of course, you're dealing with a character who doesn't look. I mean, he's anthropomorphic in some sense, the fact that he looks kind of human-like, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to change his shape all the time, like every 5 seconds while he's talking. That's fine. When they went like really crazy and had him like, turn into, a train or an animal, or at one point like he turns into Aladdin, like puts Aladdin's face on his own. That stuff was funny and silly, and I could kind of go with it more. When he was just being serious and just like, stone cold faced to Aladdin, I just didn't buy the CGI looked really off to me. I don't know how much you remember from that, but
I feel like I remember when I first saw the preview and the trailer, and they started to show kind of what Will Smith was going to look like. I think everyone lost their mind, like, "Oh, that's horrible."
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Well, I mean, you gotta wonder what's he supposed to look like. Does he need to be blue? Do we need to make him blue anymore?
Right.
Why was he blue? You know what I'm saying? So he'd show up on screen on a cartoon, but this is real life, so you could have just made him Will Smith.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even need to make him blue. Am I wrong to think that way?
Yeah, I mean,
what would that have been like?
He could have just
they just made Will Smith the
just
genie?
him. I don't know. I think at some point you need to make sure that everyone knows. For some people, this is their first Aladdin movie. Like they've literally never seen the original.
Right.
That's probably a very small percentage.
Right, but there's probably people that are like that. Yeah.
So I think in some way, shape, or form, you have to designate that this is a magical creature, that it's not a human that just has like powerful abilities. That this is a creature that came out of a lamp and lives in a lamp and is tied to the lamp with these chains. So I feel like you can't just go straight Will Smith the entire movie. That said, I think they probably even knew that the CGI didn't look that great because they went with that. Overall, Will Smith is just Will Smith and no makeup whatsoever, no CGI whatsoever for probably about 60% of the movie. And I feel like that's very much on purpose. Like they realized that either the CGI was too expensive to keep it looking good for the entire duration of the movie, because you're right. In the original movie, the Robin Williams animated film, he's blue for the entire film.
Right.
And so they either did it for cost reasons or because they realized it didn't look good, and let's just kind of temper the amount of which we really go for that. And so I don't know. For me, I was so glad to see that they weren't going to stick with blue the entire movie, because for me, it just didn't look good.
Yeah, it would have been horrible. Like over the length of the movie, it would have really looked bad. So.
Yeah. And say what you want about the Lion King remake that also came out last year, just a few months after this one, that the CGI was not the bad part of that movie. The CGI looked really, really good. It looked real. It looked like real animals that were having these conversations. And I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's actually what was one of the negative things about it. They wanted to see a more silly, kind of cartoony kind of take on this, using live animals, but make them do silly things.
Right.
They just doubled Jon Favreau, right? Jon Favreau just was like, let's make this look as real. Like, let's make people think that this is really happening.
This is a world. This is a world where animals talk. There are no. Were there humans in that? I guess there were. Weren't they the antagonists a little bit?
In The Lion King?
No, right?
No.
What am I thinking of?
Jungle Book, probably.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Also directed by Jon Favreau.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm thinking of. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a world where they're just animals ruling things, and they don't have humans to worry about. So
yeah, and again, I thought,
but there are hyenas.
I thought the animals looked good. I read one review where they thought that Abu looked really bad in this movie, and I thought he looked fine. He's not in a lot of shots, to be honest. I guess they said that his face looked kind of weird in some shots, but yeah, I thought he looked fine. I wasn't.
Well, they had to
that thrown
CGI
off.
him. I mean, to have him do the things he did. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I didn't think that way.
So yeah, I think CGI overall I thought was actually pretty good, except for some of the blue genie shots. I just didn't enjoy it whatsoever.
Blue genie.
Let's see. Let's kind of. I don't want to go beat by beat through the movie.
Yeah, I think
just
you
wanna
know.
kind of talk about some of our
I
favorite
can say.
scenes.
The thing I liked about it, the cave. What's the name of the cave?
The Cave of Wonders. Yeah.
The Cave of Wonders was so well done. I thought.
Yeah, it was great.
I thought it looked great. I thought that Jafar's character was really. They did a good job demoing him in this situation, about why he needed Aladdin to do what he needed him to do.
Yeah.
And I thought that cave scene was really, really cool. I thought they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
I feel like my other favorite part, I thought that the
you know
magic
what?
carpet was really great coming out of there too.
Yeah, yeah, and there were some moments of really good CGI and really good, like a lot. Obviously, the Cave of Wonder was a lot of CGI in that scene, like not moving CGI, just background CGI. Like they were probably in a very small room when they were shooting those shots with a lot of just blue screen behind them, but it looked real. What I really liked about the Cave of Wonders, which I guess you could infer from the original movie, but I thought was a lot more prominent in this one. In this one, Aladdin is a straight up thief. Like he's like stealing everything he can, including not in the original. You kind of get the impression he's mostly just stealing food.
Yes.
In this one, he's stealing jewels and like valuables and stuff from people and selling them to fences and stuff like that. Like it's a little more hardcore.
Yeah.
And in this
he
one,
is Han Solo in this.
yeah, he's a smuggler, and so he obviously cares a lot about riches and stuff like that in this movie. And I got it from watching the first movie too, but in this one it was much more apparent to me how much he would have been enticed and tempted by all the riches that he was walking right past but not touching as he walked through the Cave of Wonders. Obviously you get a sense of that in the original movie, but in this one it was different because you saw him actually stealing like a necklace or a brooch or something like that in the earlier parts of this movie, where you didn't see that in the original movie. And so in this one, like when he's walking past Jules and Abu's like going ooh and trying to like grab it like a ruby or something, like he's like, no, we can't. You can tell he's really struggling with it. Like he really wants to grab a few things on the way out type of thing. And so I thought they did a really good job with that. But go ahead, and I cut you off. What was the other thing you were going to jump?
No,
to?
I really liked
Magic
that
carpet.
That part of it. I thought that the characters that they rolled out. I thought what would you say the name of the new character was? What was her name?
Dahlia.
Dahlia was a great addition because it added someone for Jasmine to kind of confide in, so it wasn't just Jasmine against the world.
Yeah,
because that's almost like in the cartoon edition of this, her dad was this clueless person.
Yeah,
you remember this?
That was another big difference.
That annoyed me. I mean,
Yeah.
when I was younger and I watched it, I'm like,
he was a total pushover.
how is he the king? How is he the sultan?
Right.
If he's this much of a doofus. Like
in this one, his character was a much stronger character.
he just wanted to rule in a way that was fair to people.
Right.
And Jafar wanted to be more heavy-handed. They had a lot of disagreements, and so she ended up basically kind of being more in the middle, probably, if you're really going to go that route. But she loved your dad, and she was not headstrong, but like independent. So she was able to, be someone who probably could take that on and it'd be pretty good. So
one thing I did not see coming when I saw Dahlia, the new character, I really thought she was just going to be a support character, kind of just helping Jasmine along with whatever her story path was. She ended up having a whole story path all to herself because of a romantic interest, and like there's like a subplot between her and the genie, which like surprised the heck out of me. But it was like at first I was like, how's this gonna work? Like this human is like romantically involved with the genie as the main plot was playing out.
But then they really let you in on the fact that the genie used to be a human, and that he was going to be able to maybe end up having a relationship.
Yeah. it was just so bizarre at first, and then so I don't know if you remember, like the very first thing that you see on frame 1 of this movie is Will Smith on a boat with some children, and he's like, "Did I ever tell you the story of the Arabian Nights or whatever?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you have, but tell us again, whatever." And he's like, "Okay," and then he starts singing Arabian Nights, and they go into the story. So this whole story is being told as him as the narrator.
Yes.
You don't ever hear him as a narrator again, but that's how they started out. And then it's revealed that they, like at the very end of the movie, they go back to the boat at the very end, right before the end credits, and Dahlia comes out of the hull of the ship, whatever, and so he's his wife. Like he shows them getting married at the end,
Right.
And so I kind of forgot about that. Like you don't see Dahlia at the beginning of the movie, so it's not like I missed something that they clearly showed,
Right.
But in the middle of the movie, I was like, are they going to get together at the end? And it didn't even dawn on me that they were obviously married and had children.
Yeah, and the guy they've already he's telling the story about them getting together. So
yeah, it was very cool the way that they did that. So
can I tell you one factoid too?
Yeah.
That I've looked up and unearthed here. You know the Rotten Tomatoes on this movie. You know what it is?
no, I haven't looked at it.
Aladdin 2019 Rotten Tomatoes is 57%.
Oh, really?
From critics.
Whoa, that's low.
However, the audience score is 94%.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Now let's do some math here, Phil. The critics on this 360 voted, giving it a 57%.
That's a lot. That's pretty high, actually. 360.
360 people.
Yeah, not the 57.
57%. 94% by fans and audience members out of 59,037.
Oh, wow.
So the weight of the critic, like, and when you go to Rotten Tomatoes, the first number that pops up is at 57%.
Right.
But there's only 360 people that have voted that.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is this people. Critics are
They're harsh.
Well, they're looking at these movies with a very critical.
What are they expecting out of
critical eye
Aladdin?
sounds stupid, but
my question is, what are they expecting out of Aladdin?
I don't know. Maybe it's not gonna be Citizen Kane. Like that's not what they were going for with this movie.
But they do that with like the Star Wars. All the Star Wars movies are, well, not all of them. The last two have been, well, flip flopped.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi, the critics loved it, fans didn't like it. The new one, critics hated it, fans are like 86% on it.
Yeah.
So like it's this weird, like, what am I even really looking at?
I feel like
you'd be the judge. Like, I think the audience be the judge. Like, it's kind of what this is telling me.
Yeah.
Basically, like, you be the judge because this group of people doesn't even like this movie. 57% is a bad. It's still an F.
Yeah.
You know?
It's very telling that 6 out of 100 people that were just audience goers liked it. They didn't like it. Sorry.
Didn't like it.
Yeah. 94 out of 100 were like, yeah, this is a great movie. So
it's cray.
Yeah. I think that really has everything to do with kind of motivation for going to see it. The critics have to go see it. That's their job. The audience members, if you're going to go see this movie, it's probably because you already like the original. You're just looking for a good time with some characters that you know and love, sing along with some songs that you grew up with, that kind of thing. So
right.
I think if that's what you're trying to get out of it, it's going to be a great film.
I just found that to be really, really interesting.
That is funny.
IMDb 7 out of 10. Metacritic 53%. That's pretty low too. Obviously, it's lower even.
Another character that was added in this film that was not in the original, and he is a very, very small character compared to Dahlia, but do you remember Prince Anders of Scotland? He's like this, very kind of European, he's very white. Like, he's strikingly white. Because that's another thing they did really well with this movie is that they actually took a lot away some of the whitewashing that had been done with the original movie, where literally every actor that was voicing anybody except for, I guess, Gilbert Gottfried, but like most of that cast were just white American people, and they whitewashed even some of the lyrics. Like I was listening to Aaron Dicer talk about this movie back in the summer, and he was talking about how they changed some of the lyrics of some of the songs for this film, and the original lyric in I think it's, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's the one where they're Prince Ali of Ababa when he's coming in on his big parade and stuff like that. There's one part where the genie says, "Brush off your Sunday salam," and they're talking about like a day of worship, which in America is typically Sunday, not always, but typically the Christian tradition is Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. Well, salam in like Arabian culture is Friday night, I believe.
Really?
Like as the Sabbath starts or something like that. It starts Friday night, goes to Saturday night. So it would be a Friday salam. And so for this new movie, they changed the lyric to brush off your Friday salam. And so that's just one small thing, a little text change, or whatever.
Nugget, yeah.
Not a big deal. But where I think they really shined in this movie was they actually cast people that look Middle Eastern at least, or have darker skin.
It doesn't look like this, whatever,
Yeah, and that starts with Naomi Scott. That starts with the guy who played Aladdin. Jafar was that way. The Sultan was like that. Prince Anders of Scotland, by comparison, was a really funny character. He almost sounded like he was a character that could have been in the Frozen movies, like Deep North type of character. And he's coming to woo Jasmine so that he can become her husband. And he is the funniest, like the silliest character in the entire film, other than maybe the genie. He gets a lot of laughs, and I really liked that they had just a nothing character in there just to provide some comic relief.
Some sort of just a different character, basically. But like you said, like the whitewash aspect of the original movie, definitely they tried to even that out some in this one. And I remember whenever they cast the original two to play Aladdin and Jasmine, there was a little bit of blowback even from that people were like, well, they don't look Middle Eastern enough, which I was kind of like, I don't
for this one.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like they do.
I thought they looked fine, and there's probably some makeup involved to kind of help that process a little bit.
Right.
But no, I thought they did good, and at least they're making an effort. Whereas with the original movie, they definitely didn't.
Yeah,
at
did
all.
not. Yes,
and
exactly.
and you can kind of get away with it a little bit when it comes to animated because they are, at the end of the day, just a voice for a character.
Right. Yeah.
And at least the characters themselves looked, like they were actually from the countries that they hail from.
On.
But yeah, for this one, obviously they had to go with people that kind of looked the part. So let's see. I thought the Prince Ali, since we were just talking about that Prince Ali scene where he's walking in with this huge entourage of elephants and all the CGI'd animals.
Yes,
I thought
cool.
That looked really good. It was really stunning stuff.
Really well done.
I actually got chills watching it. Like it looked that good. How it was this big performance for the Sultan and Jasmine, and in the original movie, Jasmine is kind of rolling her eyes, is like, oh no, another prince that's coming to try to convince me to marry him.
She's seen it all.
And this one, she's kind of like, wow, this is different. Like this is kind of an amazing display. So. A whole new world I thought was really good. The magic carpet scene, it was pretty shot for shot from the original. I don't know that they added a whole lot, but it was just visually stunning to see them fly over a real town, like a real Agrabah, through real skies, through real clouds. Like it made it breathtaking to watch. Whereas the original couldn't really quite capture the realism that would invoke that kind of a scene. So I thought that was really good. The movie gets really serious in the last third of the movie, the last act, but I loved it. I like it. It wasn't. It was definitely. Jordan will be a lot older before she sees this movie. It's really gruff and it's really scary at the end. Jafar, becoming a sorcerer supreme,
power, being super powered,
yeah,
and being able to basically do whatever he wants.
At one point, he basically blips Aladdin to the North Pole, which I did not see coming. That doesn't happen in the original movie. I think Monsters Inc., where they go through a door and they're in the North Pole all of a sudden.
Right on, yeah.
Tobogganing down the hill. Basically, Aladdin is like that. He goes to basically the North Pole with Abu, and you're like, oh, how's he going to get out of this? But the genie against he does it. He's under control by Jafar at this point. Jafar has the lamp, and the genie kind of says, hey, magic carpet, go get Aladdin. And so I guess he goes at the speed of light up to the North Pole and brings him back.
He can travel for super fast.
So that was a little weird, just a little silly that that he could go that fast. But it was just cool to see them try new things, let's see how powerful he really is. And so you really get the sense that he could do just about anything. And then of course when he becomes the all-powerful genie, he's this massive thing. He's honestly, there's a couple scenes where
power cloud basically.
Yeah, and he gets huge. He fills up the kind of, I don't know what you call it, the It's like a waiting area in their palace where like you would entertain guests. It has a huge ceiling. Like the ceiling, I'm assuming they shot it on site or made something that looked really real, but the ceiling's like 80 or 90 feet tall above their heads.
Yes.
And he fills that entire room, just towers over the rest of them. I thought that was really impressive. CGI, he actually looked really good in that. Just looking over my notes. Let me speak about a couple of the themes. I think they're really powerful in this one, and they're probably just as powerful in the original movie.
Ish, but go ahead. I think this has a lot more to say than the original one.
Yeah.
Like, the original
Agree.
Is all, there's a little hidden innuendo here and there because that's what Disney did back then. Like they would put a few things in for parents, but ultimately, like, they're trying to tell a kid's story.
Right.
And I think that when you make it live action, like, you're now catering to 2 to 3 generations of people.
Right.
Go ahead. Tell me. You go ahead, and I'll spin off of what you said.
So there's a couple lines that I really liked that I wrote down. One of them was, but let me say this before I forget. I will forget it later. There's some backstory as far as why Jasmine is in hiding, and that was kind of just missed on the original movie. And I thought it made Jasmine's implications and motivations a lot stronger in this film. Mm-hmm. Apparently, her mother was killed when she was younger, like, and it's a little kind of a serious scene that they kind of, I think is when they first meet, and she's talking about, she's hiding the fact that she's a princess, but she's like, yeah, my mother isn't around anymore, she was killed. And Aladdin is talking about the princess, not knowing that he's talking to the actual princess right in front of him. And he says, yeah, the princess has been in hiding, we haven't seen her, and no one has seen her in years, and it's because her mother was killed, and so basically she doesn't want to face the people around her. So I thought that was really cool. It explains why she only has a father and not a mother. Her mother was killed when she was little. A couple themes I really liked in the movie, one of them was mentioned early on in the movie. And it's true of both films, I think, but more prominent in this one. Jafar looks at Aladdin, and it's when they first meet, and he says, you were born worthless and you will die worthless. And there's a lot of themes in the movie about class and about destiny. Like the way that you're born is the way that you have to die. There's no moving up in this world. And there's a lot to say about how the genie changes his state, how Jafar changes his state, how Aladdin changes his state, and in a sense, how Jasmine changes her state from being this, again, speechless person who's not allowed to say anything, to voice her opinion, to desire to rule the kingdom, to basically take a back seat to every relationship that she ever has, in any situation that she finds herself in, to actually going into a position of power and leading others and stuff like that. So I thought that was a really powerful line. And then towards the end of the movie, I think one of the things that hit me the strongest about those last couple scenes were, and again, it's true of the first movie, I think it's more prominent in this one, I love the idea that the most powerful being in the universe, which is the genie, that is ultimately why Jafar chooses his third wish. His third wish is to become, I want to become an all-powerful genie, the most powerful being in the universe. That the most powerful being in the universe is ultimately a servant. So because the genie is bound to the lamp, mm-hmm. and that's ultimately how they trick Jafar into basically defeating himself, is to say, hey, you'll never be the most powerful. Yeah, you're the sorcerer supreme, but you'll never be the most powerful being in the world because you're not a genie. The genie is always going to be more powerful than you. He's like, okay, my last wish is I wish to be an all-powerful genie. And then the shackles come on his wrists, and then they hold up the lamp, and he descends down into the lamp, and then he's thrown away for 1,000 years in the Cave of Wonders. That's how they defeat him. I just love the idea that, yes, you can be the most powerful thing out there, but ultimately you are serving others. Like you don't get to be served if you desire that kind of power.
And in the I'll go back a little bit. The caste system that India lives in, the caste system that Agrabah lives in.
Yeah.
It's very telling of how you would feel if you lived in that society. And I know some people feel that way in our society sometimes, but I don't think it's anything near the society that these people are living in. Like Aladdin is a thief because he has to be a thief.
Yeah.
Aladdin is not a thief because he feels like, oh well, you know what? I'm just choosing to rob people and blah blah blah. No. Like he is not choosing to be this person. Like, he just has had to be that way. That's what he grew up around. He dreams of being better than that, but what are you going to do, you know?
Yeah.
And Jafar kind of beat the odds, and we've turned him into the villain. And I think that's the hardest part for me. Is he beat the odds, but yet he's also psycho and crazy and a megalomaniac. Because once he had the odds beat, he decided he wants to keep getting more and more. So
Yeah.
but he beat the odds, man. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers
to
you,
Jafar.
Cheers to you, sir.
You're the real hero.
The real hero of the story was Jafar the whole time. Anyway.
The last thing I'll say about the movie, unless you have anything else you want to add, but is one of my favorite lines from Jasmine, and she has like tripled the amount of lines in this movie than she did in the original. I love seeing her character more fleshed out. Is at one point so they really double down in this movie how Aladdin is. He's like, no, I'm Ali now. Like, Aladdin's dead. Like, he gets so wrapped up in the glitz and glam and the actually feeling like needed and powerful and wanted.
His new
and
personality.
Like he's used
his
to be
new groove.
He's used to just being invisible everywhere he goes, and now everyone's looking at him. And so he's like, man, I'm never going back to Aladdin. I'm never telling the princess who I really am. Like, I'm Ali now, and that's my new personality. And so he is going into the room. Like, Jasmine's already starting to doubt. It's like, I feel like you are someone that I've met before, and you don't seem real. Like, none of this seems real. Even though the genie basically, the way they explain it in this movie is that the genie has like, think about it. They put a turban on him, and all of a sudden, no one recognizes him. It's like,
it's Superman.
It's
Clark Kent.
Clark Kent.
It is. I mean,
and so
glasses on him. He's not Clark Kent.
In the first movie, you're just like, okay, I guess they just don't understand. They don't see him.
Oh, they don't know him.
Yeah, because he's got a turban on. But it's like, well, Jasmine would know. Like, he looks like Aladdin. He's just wearing a turban now. In this one, they actually explain it's secret genie magic.
There's some magic.
Yeah,
and I think maybe I always felt that way. That like that's what was actually happening there.
But they
never explained it.
It's explicitly mentioned in this movie, which I thought was good.
Back then, they didn't feel like they needed to explain that, I guess.
Yeah. At any rate, so he's in the room with her, and obviously because of genie magic, she can't see that it's really Aladdin. But she's like, you're from Ababwa. She's like, I have a map right here. She's like, I study maps all the time. She's like, I've never seen Ababwa on any map. Like, you got to help me. Where is this place? And it's like just some place that the genie made up. Like Will Smith was like, he's like, you're from Ababwa, or whatever, something. She's like, I can't find Ababwa, whatever. And so eventually, how he gets out of it is he kind of like whispers to Genie, and the Genie, like, when she's not looking, like, just like like basically writes Ababwa onto the map, and then she looks back, she's like, oh, how did I miss that before, or whatever. Anyways, what the line I really like from that scene is you get it with one line, one sentence, you get a lot of introspection to how she is and how she lives her life. She says, maps are how I see the world. And I love that line from the new movie. That line doesn't exist. There's a lot of lines that don't exist from the first movie, but maps are how I see the world. Yeah. Like, she basically lives her life from her palace. She's not allowed to leave. She's not allowed to, to fraternize with peasants or anything like that. And she's never been to any other countries. She's like, her entire world is literally this house that she lives in. And so the way that she experiences the world and understands how life is just by staring at maps and like having dreams and, just coming up with ideas about how the world is outside of these four walls. So I thought that was really great. The movie is infinitely deeper than the original movie. So for all those ways, I really, really enjoyed it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool. I like I said, I went into it with zero expectations because I didn't necessarily like the original Aladdin, the animated movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was like, oh, yay, love it. But it was one of those where this one, I went into it with zero expectations. And I came out of it thinking Will Smith's really, really talented.
Yeah.
Like, everyone... I think you see Will Smith so much that you just discount him,
right?
Because he's Will Smith.
Yeah,
we've seen Will Smith for
just
30
another
years.
Will Smith, yeah,
30 plus years now, and almost 40 years basically. No, actually, technically, probably close to 30 years. Let's say 30 years.
Yeah,
and
he's
taken for granted.
He's in his 40s now, and I think
he's old in that.
Some of his dance moves, he actually keeps up with the guy who plays Aladdin in this movie. Like, he's honestly. He's quick. Like he. I mean, I definitely couldn't dance like Will Smith does ever. Like even when I was in my prime, but he's older than us, and he looks good out on the dance floor. He's doing some.
William Smith was born in 1968. He's 51 years old.
Yeah, that's crazy. He's in his 50s.
So
he's probably 50 when he shot this.
He's in great shape, looking good, and I mean seriously, think about it.
He's built and he raps and dances and sings and acts, and I mean he's a triple threat.
Let me go over something real quick. I didn't tell you I was doing this, but I did a poll on Twitter. Actually, I did it on the Horror Movie Podcast's Twitter because there's a lot more followers on that.
Yeah.
And I put which Aladdin movie. I started this at the very beginning of the show when we first started recording.
Okay.
Which Aladdin movie is the quintessential Aladdin movie?
Okay.
1992, and I put box office 500 million, or 2019, and I put 1.051 billion.
Yeah.
Unanimously, 1992 Aladdin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like 8 people.
8 out of 8. All
8
said
out of 8 all said
1992. I don't know that means it's the better movie. I just think people.
No, I mean I think, but you're right. I mean that is the quintessential Aladdin movie. Like, and I knew that when I put that up there. I was just an interesting thought I had because like does box office, and you're right, not aggregately, but like with inflation, 500 million in 1992 is it the same as 1 billion in 2019? Who knows?
Probably not quite a billion, but yeah, it would be closer to that number. But
yeah,
I can tell you which movie I want to see next. Like in 2 years, when I feel like I'm in an Aladdin mood and want to watch one of these movies, I would choose the new one.
Okay.
Over the original.
Here's your,
and that may just be because I've literally seen the original like 35 times.
And how two-dimensional the original out. If you think about it, it's very two-dimensional.
It's very flat. It is, and I think that's fine for kids. But as an adult, I just want to see more as I'm watching the movie.
Now, how about this one? I want to gauge your facial reaction, and people listening can't see this.
Yeah.
Reading there, they're talking about a sequel to
really?
Aladdin.
Return of Jafar?
No, they won't do. They said they're not going to do Return of Jafar.
Okay.
But they're talking about doing a sequel to Aladdin.
Okay.
So what do you think about that?
I mean, I would totally be down.
Does it make $1 billion? I don't think it does it?
No, it won't. There's no genie in that movie unless it's some kind of weird prequel or something like that. I mean, he's not the genie at the end of Aladdin because, I mean, spoiler alert, Aladdin uses his third wish to set him free, and he's just a human. So, yeah, I don't know what they would do. I mean, it would just have to be like an Aladdin and Jasmine adventure, like where they have to go to some other kingdom maybe or something.
Yes.
I don't see it being set in Agrabah. That'd be weird. I'm sure it would do fine just because people love those characters and that world.
Yes.
And it would be well shot. Like it's Disney, so it's gonna make $1 billion. But I don't know. I don't know that I'd be as excited to see that one.
Okay.
That's the thing with these remakes is kind of they have such a library to pull from. They can literally make 30 remakes in the next 10 years if they want to because of the vast catalog that they have. But they're all one shots. Like you can't do Cinderella and then do it again 5 years later or 10 years after that. Like, okay, this is your live action go, and then maybe 20 years from now you can do it again.
You put it in that way, that does kind of make sense. Like the
you better do it right, I guess is what I'm saying.
Snow White, and they haven't.
They did do a sequel to that one, didn't they?
Didn't they?
Snow White and the Huntsman, and then whatever the sequel was.
Right?
But, yeah.
Is that Disney or is that not Disney?
Oh, it might not. I didn't look.
I had to look. I was trying to think of another example.
Like Beauty and the Beast,
and they have the Maleficent stuff.
Yeah, and Maleficent actually has had more than one movie, but that's exploring a whole storyline that's completely separate.
Not part of it.
From Sleeping
I'm
Beauty.
trying to think of a good example. If you take Little Mermaid, let's do the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Right now, Little Mermaid, the Hall of Fame of Little Mermaid is the original animated movie of Little Mermaid.
Yeah, and they made a second one straight to video. But
and they're going to they're making a live action, and everyone lost their minds whenever it wasn't a redheaded white girl.
Right.
And I'm like, it's a freaking cartoon. Who cares?
Yeah, and it's also a mermaid. So.
Yeah, it's not even a real thing. Like
it's not even a real human.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's just weird. Like they're not like we're having Mary Curie the movie, and we're gonna get Queen Latifah.
Yeah.
Like you know what I'm saying? They like didn't go like it's not a person.
Yeah.
Like it's a mermaid.
Yeah, I think people need to settle down
over that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How about Disney making just a ton more movies off of remaking old films that they've already had in their catalog for 50 years, as opposed to just making new movies, which wouldn't do as well. Those movies, if they made a brand new Princess story, it might do okay. It's not going to do $1 billion.
Right.
Like, that's what's so crazy to me. They've tried to do that. Like, Enchanted came out, and people like Enchanted. It didn't make $1 billion. Like, those movies.
What's the
These movies are only doing well because people love the originals.
What's the New Orleans based one? It's got some
Princess and the
voodoo
Frog.
in it. Princess and the Frog.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a new one that they had done. And it doesn't have anything near the traction that the others has.
Here's another question for you. Will they ever remake any of the Pixar stuff? I don't know that Pixar would allow that. Like would Merida, would a Brave live action movie ever happen?
I don't.
It seems weird to me because Pixar, even though they are technically just a Disney
Now,
studio,
Brave you could.
They could pull it off. I'm just saying, I see Pixar.
I don't want to see Monsters Inc. live.
No, even that would be terrible. Even though Pixar is technically just another Disney studio, people elevate them as a higher than just all those Disney movies in the past. And so I don't know. I just don't know that people be like, if they were making a live action remake of a Pixar movie, people would be like, what? Like, why is the original
why do they need to do this?
Not good enough?
Toy Story.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know that I see that ever happening, but they will. I feel pretty confident they will remake every big animated film at some point. We will have an entire catalog of just live action movies.
That's why they do it. Man.
And some of them are good, and some of them are not good. What we can transition if you're ready. But speaking of original movies that I've not seen the remake, but I heard it was terrible. One of the things I watched on Disney Plus this week was the original Dumbo, which I had not seen since I was a little kid. Like,
what'd you think of it?
I probably hadn't seen it in 25 years.
Does it hold up at all?
It is a rough go. There's not anything that's like super offensive in the movie. Like, we were talking about Song of the South and stuff like that. It's not quite to that level. Apparently, one of the characters in the birds towards the end of the movie, one of the main bird that speaks to them is called Jim Crow, which I think they took out a line where where he says, "Hey, I'm Jim Crow." But that scene is still in there. The rumor back in April of last year was that they were not going to include the Jim Crow scenes in Dumbo. They were going to strike that from the record and just show the rest of the movie without that. But you can't, because that and then November comes and it's the whole movie's shot for shot in there.
Yeah, and
you can't. Here's why you can't pull the crow scenes from the end of the film. Is they are the reason why they convinced Dumbo to fly. There is no Dumbo flight without the crows. So you can't just pull them from the movie. You can, redraw a whole nother scene and try to add stuff it in there. But no, you have to have the crows.
I'm being brutally honest too. Like, and this is a whole other thing, but like that Jim Crow character in general, like I guess maybe if kids, if there's a deep dive and people freaking out about that, maybe it makes a kid kind of go, well, what was that? And then they look it up, and then and then maybe you learn something from knowing what the heck that was,
right?
Because it was pretty stupid, and it was one of those double standard things in our lives that things like that still exist today. It's not like they don't exist today.
Yeah,
like learning from the past, folks. Can I give you a little lesson here, everybody? Learning from the past. Hopefully, then that makes us not repeat our same dumb mistakes.
Right.
But again,
Dumbo came out a long time ago. It came out almost 80 years ago.
Yeah. So
1941.
So the idea in my head, and I always do this with things, like it makes me annoyed when people freak out about something that was made in 1941. The world was a very different place.
This is pre-World War II.
This is this is in the middle of World War II.
Well, I thought it started in 1941.
For America, it started in 1941, but the rest of the world started the World War in 39, I think, maybe 38. But
this movie came out before D-Day, so it is a very, very old movie.
What date? What's the actual date?
Let's see.
It just says 41. 23rd?
Yeah, nobody knows.
So December 7th, 1941 is the day that lives in infamy. Yeah. I think it's October 30th.
Dude, it was in theaters when D-Day happened.
Yeah, whenever Pearl Harbor happened.
Oh, Pearl Harbor, that's right.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor happened.
Sorry.
So I'm just saying, the world's a totally different place. We thought the Nazis were bad at this point. We knew the Nazis were bad at this point. But we in 1941 when Dumbo was in theaters, it's not like what we. Again, Hitler was a human that was walking around Germany, kicking, putting the Jews in concentration camps. So I'm saying, like, the world was a different place. So for everybody to lose their mind, if they lose their mind over Dumbo, dear Lord.
So on the Wikipedia page for the 1941 Dumbo, the entire plot can be surmised in just 3 paragraphs. That seems about right. There's not a whole lot going on in this movie.
Well, and back then, animated things didn't.
By the way, this movie has a running time of just under 64 minutes.
Good.
It's a short movie.
They were making these things for children.
Yeah.
Guys, cartoons for adults, like honestly, the Flintstones, the Flintstones could be best literal. The Flintstones are probably the first thing that you sit there and go, this is a cartoon that is for adults too, because it ran prime time for a while. And so, but before that, like anything animated, Bugs Bunny, any of that stuff, and there's some Bugs Bunny cartoons that like push the envelope that you can't play them now. There's
a couple things that when you pull this up on Disney Plus, the only thing that it says as far as content, it says for some scenes of tobacco use, because there's a couple parts where they're smoking and like blowing smoke into Dumbo's face and stuff like that. Yeah. I think the most curious scene for our 3-year-old to watch when she was watching, because she really wanted to see this movie. She got a Christmas present that had Dumbo in it, so she was really excited to see it. At one point, both Dumbo and Timothy Mouse, who's his friends that helps him through the story, get drunk, like just completely wasted, and because they accidentally drink this water that's been contaminated with like alcohol, and then they have this big like hallucination scene that goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes. It's the elephants on parade, pink elephants on parade.
Yeah,
and so they're just seeing like imagining that they're seeing pink elephants and they're shape shifting into all these weird things. It's a really weird trip, like it's just a trippy scene. So it is for kids, but it also like I think Jordan watching it was just confused by half of the movie. He's like, I don't know what's happening right now.
What you talk
I don't think she'll want to watch this.
You talk about the hallucinations. It makes me think that 64-minute runtime, that the studio was like, well, we've got this movie called Dumbo that we drew. I got this other thing with these pink elephants that I drew. Can we make up something in the Dumbo movie that then allows us to be able to use this? Sure thing. We'll just make them drunk.
Maybe also kind of like Bambi, I guess, would be another example of this. But there are some scenes that are very dark in this movie, and I think Pinocchio actually is kind of like this too. But a lot of those movies back then didn't shy away from like the really heavy stuff. And there's a scene where Dumbo is crying and his mother is crying because they're separated from each other. His mother, Mrs. Jumbo, gets locked up in this cage basically and isn't going to be let out, and Dumbo doesn't understand why, and Jordan was just like, why is his mommy in there? Why can't they see each other? Like she was like really broken up over it. So yeah, it's the other thing about this movie is if I saw the script of like actual lines that are spoken by a person in this movie, it's probably about 8 pages. But most of the movie is not. There's no spoken lines.
$950,000 budget back then was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then it made $1.3 million.
So it basically broke even.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. What a weird time. Like I think one of their first movies, like Snow White was their very first, I think it came out in the 30s. They did some other little short films and stuff like that. This movie definitely came out in their first 10 years. And it does not play like a typical Disney movie. So it's a weird one to go back to. So this movie definitely does not hold up. I've not seen the remake of it, but I've heard it's maybe even worse than the original.
Yes.
Which is saying a lot, I think. So, most of the movie is basically like him having these big floppy ears, and people think he's ridiculous, and they all make fun of him and laugh at him. And then he, has to like climb on top of these elephants and try to be a part of the circus show. He wants to see his mother. At the very end of the movie, he figures out he can fly. Roll credits. It's like that's the whole movie. It's really weird.
Miller and I watched Monsters, Inc. this week.
Yeah.
He loves Monsters, Inc. I find it to be awesome. I love Monsters, Inc. I like it better than Monsters University, but I like Monsters University. But darn good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. The power of laughter is more power than the power of fear.
Yeah, that's what we learned from that.
That's the big learning thing. Sully's a great guy, played by John Goodman.
That cast, man, so good.
And Billy Crystal's really funny.
Also,
Is it great?
Yeah.
It's better than my old one.
Miller's saying this new phone's great.
WWE game.
Yeah.
It used to always.
Okay, hold on 1 second. All right.
Nobody can hear you right now.
Anyway, so very good. That's about it. That's all I got for you. It was great.
And then I told you this at lunch today, but Clone Wars, I'm still tearing through that. I watched another 5 or 6 episodes. I figured it out, Jack. I did the math. There's about 100 episodes that I need to see before season 7 comes out in mid-February. I don't know if you saw the news, listener. This week came out February 17th is the final season of Clone Wars.
Cool.
Season 7. I'd like to review that on this podcast.
I'm all over it. So yeah, I love it.
So I'm trying to catch up. I'm trying to watch all 6 seasons, which is 100 more episodes.
Right.
There's like 120 total or whatever.
Yeah.
But I already seen most of the first season. I'm almost done with season 1. I have 2 episodes left, and then there's like 99 more episodes after that. And I have about 33 days to watch them. So if I watch 3 episodes a night, every single night without skipping a night, I can get all 6 seasons in before season 7 comes out.
Awesome.
So I'm going to try to do it.
I'm all caught up on it. So when the new one comes out, I'm very pumped for that. So
Yeah, I saw.
Now, are they going to load all of them at once, or are they going to go one at a time like they did with Mandalorian?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
Probably weekly.
I'm assuming so. Yeah. That's what I would prefer, to be honest. Like I'm not much of a binger. Like a lot of this I don't have time right now, but I wouldn't, like, if they dropped 18 episodes of season 8 or season 7, I wouldn't want to watch all 18 in one weekend. Like I kind of like spacing it out and having conversations about it with my friends at work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I like the way that they're doing it.
It's cool.
Hopefully they'll do that.
I hope so too.
Well, thanks for listening to the show. Let us know what you want to hear about on this podcast. We're going to be next week. We're going to be talking about High School Musical, the musical series, the longest name for a TV show ever.
Yeah, really weird. We're going to have some great guests on, some tentative great guests.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil surprises because you know how that goes.
We will have at least 2 guests, if not 3, next week. So I'm very excited.
You
about
may end
that.
up hearing more of them than you do us.
I'm not sure how much of this I'm going to watch. To be honest,
but I'm going to watch enough to talk about it. And I've seen all the other High School Musical stuff, so if nothing else, we can steer the conversation toward those movies. So.
I've not even seen the first 2 High School Musicals, so
They're phenomenal.
I don't know much about the property, but
they're great.
Apparently the show is pretty good. I don't know that I'll watch more than a couple episodes of it. I don't know if you know this, Jack, but there's Clone Wars that I need to watch, so I might be...
No, you're having to watch 3 episodes. How long is that episode of Clone Wars?
I mean, you can do it in 22 minutes.
Isn't it short? They're shorter, yeah. So that'll be...
I mean, an hour a night is what we're talking about. So I probably will not be watching the entirety of all 10 episodes of High School Musical, the musical series, but I will probably watch a couple episodes and then just kind of let them talk for the next episode. So if you're into High School Musical, the musical series, you're in luck. Next week is going to be all about that.
Can I sing us out?
Sure. Why not?
A whole new world.
disneyplusreviews at hotmail.com.
A whole new world. Blah, 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 blah. No one to tell us where to go. Let me show my whole new world with you.
I got very suggestive there at the end.
Thank you. I'm done.
Night.